charge a few $100,000 a pop. And when you're in your, early 20s, that's not a bad gig with a few employees. So I sold that in
What would you have
20
done, Chris, in your 20s with $200,000 a pop? Just
I'm not sure, Alan. Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. Alan, we got to rock something today. We got to get rolling. We got to get moving. Man, I love that music every time. It gets me jacked up. But before we get going that far, Big Daddy had a big weekend.
again?
I did.
Gee, what a surprise.
Yeah. So guess what? I got to go out there and hang out with my national Nary people.
By the way, listeners, you want to know how often I come in and I see Chris and he's like, I've had a big week. I'm kind of recovering right now. I'm like, that's every week.
That's how
every week.
The green room goes like that until Alan says, cheers, bro.
Yeah. Give him the little hair of the dog that bit him.
And I get going again. And Daddy's back up, ready to rock and roll. Let me tell you about my week, though, man. I went out to Austin, Texas. I met the great people of National Nary, the National Association of the Remodeling Industry. I hate saying it, but it's Nary. I'm on the national board doing the committee work, and I'm actually the president here in Atlanta. And it was so cool to see the artistry that these people can perform in Austin, Texas, and Silicon Valley, and Pennsylvania, and San Francisco, in New York City, and Atlanta, of course. In Atlanta, we won 6 awards. I didn't win one of them, but I went up there and accepted for one. So, of course, I did. Why not?
So people put in the projects that they did?
They put in the projects they did, and they put them up for national awards.
Is there like an example you can give us of something?
Oh, man. No, it's hard for me to explain it all. I would tell you guys, go check out nary.org, and you can see some of the national winners. Some of these projects were absolutely stunning. I mean, $1.5 million deal down to a $50,000 deal, and you still sit there with your jaw dropping going, I can't believe they transformed that space to make it look that cool. So being in the remodeling industry and seeing what people can do, it definitely gets you going like, hey, I can, I'm with good people. So had a great time doing that, but then Daddy had to get back to what he does best.
Fast boats, loose women, booze, gambling, golf.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, you got the everything but the boat, and we put the boat away this weekend. So I went to Lake Oconee, which is Masters adjacent. We had the Masters tournament to document where we were, and Rory McIlroy just got done winning his career Grand Slam. Collin, you love that. Come on,
final round ever.
Collin Graves is giving us he's got it. We're going to introduce him in just a minute. So we went out there, and I flew from Austin, Texas at 5:30 in the morning, got in the airplane, got back to Atlanta, drove out to Oconee, and I went out there, I changed my clothes, got out there, boom, stretch, hit the ball, bam, I was teeing off at 11 o'clock.
Isn't it funny? There's a lot of people here in Georgia that do that. It's like we're playing golf real close to the Masters while the Masters is going on, and you feel like you're part of it.
I call it the Masters adjacent tournament. I mean, I was among the Georgia Pines. We played through the same wind those guys played through on Thursday. We played through the same.
Yeah, you were an hour away, right?
Just an hour away.
Yeah.
Because the deal is 2 of us go to the Masters and 4 of us play golf and check it out. And so this year, none of us went to the Masters because everybody just wanted to play golf because we've been there. But again, when you see it on TV,
you realize how much that hurts some people who are listening to this.
You know, guys, if that hurts you, it should. Because I'm telling you,
really
we are
bad.
so spoiled. Because I'm telling you, that is the closest place to heaven on earth I've ever been in my life, other than Kiowa. That was probably for me.
But Kiowa, anybody can get on to, or at least.
But the Masters,
yeah.
When you go in that place, the first time I went on there, my buddy took me in there, and this is an experience thing. Before we get into talking to Collin, my buddy says, let's go. And I said, all right, great, we're going to go. And I had a number of chances to go beforehand, and I missed. So we go in, and we park in somebody's front yard, which you don't do anymore. We came in at the bottom where 16 green is. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God, this place is perfect. In my head, I'm like, I wonder if they actually whip the grass to make it stand on attention, like if they're in the military. And I was like, and I look over and I see these guys whipping these bamboo whips across the grass to knock down the grass clumps. I'd never seen that in my life. And I'm like, oh my God, they do. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I stopped, and my buddy had to stop and come back and get me. He goes, Chris, are you ready? And he had to grab my hand like a little kid. It's like, it's okay. You can come in.
Yeah.
That's how hallowed this place
ground.
is. It is. So we got to see that. Chris played a lot of golf. And then here we are getting back together again in studio with Alan. And we get to talk to the great
So
Collin
I always
Graves.
just get the dregs of you. I never get you at your peak. I get you with the hangover.
You do. And look at that. Even that is a high for you.
It's still
right?
a lot.
All right, everybody, let's get into it. We got to talk to Collin Graves, managing partner at North Labs. We're going to talk about data. We're going to talk about how you can use your data the right way. He's going to touch on some AI stuff. But before we do that, Collin, first of all, thank you for your service and what you did. You joke about being in the Air Force. You joked about this. I don't give two shits about that. You actually did it. Thank you. Great job, buddy.
I appreciate it. Great to be here.
All right, let's jump into this stuff. All right, so Collin, what's the best score you ever shot at the Masters? What? Oh, I did not just do that. So,
but other than that, he's done everything else better than us.
I think so.
I mean, we figured that out in 5 minutes before we got on air.
Yeah, when he started talking about the stuff he's into, I'm like, huh.
Well, special forces, race car driver, got more hair than we do. I mean, it's just, it's over.
We're gonna pin that race car thing. I'm bringing that up later. I want to talk a little bit more about data before we get there.
Okay.
Can we?
I know, because I know you really like data, and I'm very leery of it.
I know it. So, Collin, talk to us a little bit about how you got into this space and what you're doing, and let's give everybody a little background on that.
Yeah, sure. First of all, great to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm sure you extended more grace to me than I deserve, but I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, long story short, I've been involved in the cloud computing industry since its infancy. I learned about it while I was in the military, still just turning wrenches on the B-1 bomber in Ellsworth Air Force Base, which translated quite a bit to overseas duty, seeing as it's the most active aircraft since 9/11. So had, one of the greatest pleasures of my life supporting such an amazing aircraft. But I was walking the flight line one day, dirty with grease and hydraulic fluid, and my dad sent me a news article talking about how Amazon was thinking about leasing data center space to other companies per second. And I thought that was an insanely novel idea. This was back when, mind you, Amazon was only a, $5 billion company. So they hadn't yet gone on there.
So give us a mark on that timeline wise, because this is
2007.
Yeah. So you want to age yourself. It's all about technology from since the dawn of technology. Yeah. So 7. You're right. Amazon wasn't what it is today, right? And a lot of us in 2025 are going, well, Amazon. You're like, of course. You're like, no, it wasn't Amazon in 7. So, all right, continue on. I love this.
Yeah. So, and when you think about the magnitude of where Amazon is now, when you think about all the compute power they needed in 2007 to operate Amazon.com and what would become AWS, all of that computing infrastructure, all that data center space, they are now adding that every single day across the AWS infrastructure every single day. And so anyway, I read that. I am not classically trained in computer science or software engineering. I just thought it was a really sweet idea, and I liked Amazon and liked what they were about. And I decided to dive into it and learn more, and I became obsessed with it. So I became one of the first 10 fully certified AWS folks in the world. Started a company in 2010 while I was getting ready to transition out of the military. That effectively what we built was Dropbox for construction services companies to share large files in the field over 2G cellular. This was before software as a service and the likes of Dropbox was a thing. And of course, I wasn't smart enough to think of a new operating model like Drew Houston, the founder of Dropbox, who figured out, hey, I can build this once and have millions of people all consume this infrastructure. We were building it over and over again for companies, which was a sweet little gig. We could charge a few $100,000 a pop. And when you're in your early 20s. That's not a bad gig with a few employees. So I sold that in.
What would you have done, Chris, in your 20s with 200 grand a pop? Just
I'm not sure, Alan. I don't know. And you know what? There's a reason God did not let me have that much money early on. Which is
God doesn't give you more than you can handle.
That's
Chris.
why my first job was $38,000 a year.
Apparently, Collin can handle much more than either you or I.
So yeah, you still go through the bad financial decisions.
What kind of car did you buy?
I certainly did.
What kind of car did you buy?
What'd you buy?
Go. For me, it was an Audi RS7 was my sort of bread and butter. I brought it back over from Germany, where my last base was. I wrapped my time with Ramstein and with NATO, both of which they're based out of Ramstein. Shipped the RS7 over. Was living in a crummy apartment on Grand Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota. And that first snowfall came when the snow is up over the roof of your car. And I thought, this is too much car to park on a public street. So I sold it to my buddy at
I would have just moved. Why didn't you just move?
Yeah, life the choices, Collin. Life choices.
I mean, all this time I'm thinking Collin's just got it going on. I'm like, it's a pretty simple equation here.
Yeah,
Snow, car, move.
Yeah, I was trying to finish up my degree, and anyway, I sold it to a buddy, for $3,000 less than I bought it for, and I figured that's a pretty good for a car.
You're a good guy. You're a good guy.
So yeah, sold that in 14. Signed my life away in a non-compete from 14 to 16. I was young and naive. I didn't know what a non-compete was. I signed a non-compete that said, not only will you not start a business in the tech space, you won't start any business for 2 years. So I consulted out in the Bay Area with a few of the bigger organizations out there, helping them with their journey to the cloud.
Consulted from Minneapolis or moved out there?
I would fly out there every week. And I paid my buddy Dan, who is chief of staff for one of the huge tech companies out there. I paid him $400 a month to sleep on his couch and eat his groceries. And I think their house was like 16 grand a month to rent out. So I had a pretty good deal. So it was cheaper for me to fly in every week, crash on their couch and fly home than it was to get a place there.
You could have driven the car out there.
Let's go back to that experience. Yeah, you could have driven the 7 out there.
Just left it there.
What I'm saying?
Yeah,
not for nothing. And I'm telling you, somebody in San Francisco would have bought that thing like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that later. So again, you had started your business in 10. Here you go. You signed the non-compete. Here we are in 14. No kids, no family, no wife, right?
Right.
You're still doing your thing. Did you have a plan? This is where I want to get back to this. Did you have a plan? Did you say, oh, man, I'm going to get here. I'm going to get to this. Or was things just coming at you and you're like, oh, I'm going to take this problem and solve it. Take this problem and solve it.
Yeah, honestly, the original company was called Cloud CTO. It morphed into that. Originally, it was supposed to be just advisory for companies to think about adopting the cloud. But the cloud was so new back then that I was getting chased out of boardrooms with pitchforks and torches. I mean, people were saying, who the hell are you, snot-nosed kid, telling me I need to abandon my data centers? So quickly I realized the only way we're making headway is with construction companies because they have a pain that can only be solved with the cloud. So we built that solution and then just marketed the crap out of it. So
you pivoted to that because you saw your original idea was you had the foresight to see that paying for the cloud by the minute or basically renting the cloud, if you will, and picking up subsections was the way you were going to go. And you saw that this was your niche. And so is that how you started to figure out how to grow that one?
Yeah, it was. Once we had one successful implementation under our belt, I knew that every other services company that was thinking logically needed this because there's so much pain involved, or there was back in the day, with needing to make sure all of your plans and diagrams are on your Lenovo, laptop with the rugged case on it before you load it into the truck and go to the job site. And guess what? You always forget something. And so the solution back then was to drive back to home base, get it, and come back to the job site. And so, it was simple in nature. It didn't do backups or anything smart. It was just a place to land your stuff and make it accessible over crappy cellular connection. It would still take 3 minutes to download, right? But that was a heck of a lot better than an hour and a half round trip from, a plot of land you're building on to home base. So,
so how'd you get people to buy into this, right? You had this great idea. Let's talk about how'd you get people to buy it? Because back to being an entrepreneur, right? It's cash is king, but you got to have leads. So sales is the number one. She's the queen.
yep.
Sales is queen. How'd you find out how'd you figure out how to sell it?
Let them try it. So I'd spin off, the smallest, simplest bits of it, we made clonable. So when I was going into a sales meeting with people, I would spin off a clone for them with their domain. I'd stick their logo on it. And while we're talking to, some of the typically older gray, men in suits who had been doing this for a long time.
Oh, you're talking about Alan. Alan's old.
I was referring to Alan specifically.
I will take that.
Yeah. But anyway, it was sort
thing.
of they didn't understand the philosophy of what the cloud could do, but if I could show them, and I would say, we've got this, you got a 2G cellular device, go out into the parking lot. I'm going to load this file up. You're going to watch it populate. You're going to download it. And you come back and tell me if it worked or not. And that was really what it took back then, was them just seeing it for themselves. And then they would piece together all of the inefficiencies within their business that they knew existed.
Let's break that one down, because I love this. This translates across any industry, anything you want to do. I know you want to talk data, and we will. But you know what, Collin, what you figured out from being a grease monkey on a flight line and seeing some incredible people is that if you can give somebody a solution that makes their life easier and then prove to them it makes their life easier, it's an easy, no-brainer sale. Back to the, what I'm thinking about, it's the QVC stuff. Hey, I'm the big guy. So let's go back to this. So you say, hey, dude, I can sit here and talk all day long, or you can take this thing, go out into the parking lot, and 2G, just so everybody gets a feel for that, 2G, today we're all on 5G. It's a big number, right? 2 to 5. I think that's 3 more. Again,
it's this minis.
I don't know how to do it. So you had them go out there and do that. How many times would they come back in and go, no shit, I think I think you're full of shit. You're lying to me. Or how many times they come in going, got it, let's do it.
I mean, there was always hesitation just because the methodology was new, right? The cloud was so new. People just didn't really, people would literally look up at this, point up at the sky. Some people still do that today.
I do.
Guilty. Right. Talking to 2 old guys.
But it's one of those things where, if you think about their next best alternative, they were sitting down with global consulting firms or really established groups who would come in and they would design a solution for them, and they'd say, okay, cool, it's going to cost 7 figures and here's what you'll get. And there's a lot of risk associated with that, especially when you don't understand the underpinnings of what makes the technology work. So for me, I came in and said, look, I was early on in this. I've got a few turns of the lathe so far. I built this thing. It's self-contained and self-managed, so you don't need to really worry about how it works. Similar to, you don't think about how your operating system on your computer works. At least I don't. So go out there and I'm going to show you, and you're going to tell me if it solves your pain or not, right? Imagine doing it from your 1500 truck at a job site, and you tell me if you think it'll bring value to your group. And, there was the occasional couple of them who are just like, nah, we'll keep doing it the way we do it. But yeah, a good number of them said, you know what, I get it. And it's not theoretical, and it's not just a 30-page statement of work talking about a consulting plan. It's just something that's already here that I can begin leveraging tomorrow.
So it's not really in the cloud, huh?
Well, again, you're pointing up. Isn't that funny? Everybody points up. God, cloud. Clouds are above us.
What happens if it's a clear day? Do you not?
There's no data then. I don't get data. So I'm sure there's been a lot of that. But think about if you could go in front of a customer or a potential client and show them and proof of concept them that quickly. That, Collin, I think that's a genius selling proposition, right? You came in, you did the pre-work, you walked into that sales call, and you had done that pre-work. Don't tell me that people don't go, this guy actually listened to me. Because what do people say? even in customer service, but in sales, right? If you're trying to sell me on something, prove to me you know who I am. Prove to me you know my biz. And Collin's saying, I'm going to come in and show you not only do I know your business, but I know how I can make your business better.
I'm still, and I get like this with every guest that has a similar path. Like you said, he's a guy turning wrenches on a B-1 bomber, sees an opportunity. We've all seen opportunities. I mean, how many of us are like, oh, I got this idea, but we never do anything about it? So he has the idea. It's very technical. He's got to educate himself. He's got to find somebody probably to build the program. Then he's got to identify who the market is. And then he's got to figure out how to get him in front of these people. And then he's got to figure out how to sell it. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's a huge curve that you went through in a really short amount of, I mean, did you have any sort of modeling, any sort of coaching, any sort of mentoring, or did you just freaking brute force it until you figured it out?
Well, I mean, what I'll say is, growing up, honestly, I didn't know that being an entrepreneur was an option until my dad was brave enough to do it. My dad was also Army. He's still in better shape than I am. He's more disciplined than I'll ever imagine being. He had a storied career at Medtronic, inventing pacemakers that he's got up on his patent wall, and he helped design the first the Keurig coffee machine. He worked with the contract manufacturer who designed that.
How about that, dude? You're telling me that pacemakers and Keurigs are in the same vein?
Yeah.
Get it? It's like, I did that vein.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
But yeah, but anyway, like, when I was
over.
All right, so
proud of that.
All right, let's go back to this again. So back to the entrepreneurial thing. You didn't know it until your dad did it, and then you went, "Huh, that's something."
Yeah.
Was he the mentor?
He was, yeah, and he still is to this day. I mean, my dad's the smartest person I know, and I've met a lot of smart people in this industry, but he's got 3 master's degrees. He's just incredibly intelligent. And so he went from this career where you need 3 master's degrees in engineering to being a master electrician. He said, I want to get out of the rat race. I want to get into home services. And he started an electrical contracting company that became the most popular electrical contracting company in Minnesota after a few short years. And I got to watch him do that. Why am I
talking to Collin? I want to talk to his dad.
You could be his dad, Chris, if only you applied yourself.
You know what? Honestly, if I quit, because I think I know your dad's in better shape than I am. That's awesome. All right, so your dad was clearly your mentor. So you would go to him. But back to Alan's original point, because I love to hear this too, and I think we all do. Is how did you make that leap? I mean, how did you keep moving up?
I think there is benefit to being young and dumb. And
Amen.
I think there's a lot of that. I think people just apply it incorrectly a lot of the time. But for me, it was like, okay, I have a safety net with the military. I flew for a living, or flew on planes for a living. So my life was tax-free and per diem money. So I knew that I would be able to afford a 10-hour-a-week engineer if I needed help. But for me, it was really just like, I obsess over things that I'm interested in. And I became absolutely obsessed over the idea of learning how to create technology. I'd never done it before, but we'd be flying over the country of Africa with a bunch of Navy SEALs in the back, and I'd be stretched out in a hammock in the tail cone of the 130, learning how to write Ruby code or JavaScript. So the first thing I just built myself.
All right.
Yeah.
So you started a business, and Alan asked, so which one were you? Were you the technician, the one who was really technical? Were you the great sales guy, or were you the manager? Where were you?
Could be the visionary.
Yeah, I was the visionary dreamer, and still am today. I got good enough at the technology to make something barely work. I'll put it that way.
So you hired for your weaknesses, and you brought in help, or you whatever, you contracted or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'll still do that today, right? I have to talk tech for a living, but none of my engineers would trust me to implement anything for one of their customers.
Nice.
Right? So I knew that if I could understand technical nuances, but speak about those deeply technical things with business stakeholders, that's where the money is made, because business stakeholders are the ones who write the checks.
So let's talk about this concept. If you don't know the details, how can you be so good at putting this in? This is the interesting concept that I always think about. Like, hey, Chris, you don't know everything about a house. I'm like, yeah, but I really enjoy it. Well, do you know everything? No, that's what I count on my guys to do, right? At this point in my life, in my career, what I'm doing. So as you're doing that, how do you know that these guys are doing what you want them to do? And how do you get them to buy into what you're seeing? Do you have what it takes to start your own business? Are you tired of the 9-to-5 corporate job and ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship? Then you need to check out From the Zoo to the Wild, the new book by successful entrepreneur Chris Lalamia. This book is a unique perspective on the journey into the wild world of home services and delivering excellence in service while working in customers' homes. Lalamia shares his path to success in this industry, including proven customer relationship strategies, award-winning customer experience processes, and a unique approach to training a team of service technicians to perform at the highest levels. Whether you're a small business trying to scale or a franchise operation, From the Zoo to the Wild will give you the mindset, habits, leadership style, and customer-oriented processes to succeed as a small business owner in the home services space. So if you're ready to take control of your future, get your copy of From the Zoo to the Wild today, available on Amazon.
I educated myself enough to know, at least for the early days of the platform, that what they were building was legit. I could read through their code and understand generally, even if it wasn't optimized or perfect, I knew that it was flowing how it needed to flow.
All right, so to your point then, that's what I love. So you could come in and let them know every once in a while, I'm the pirate of the ship and I'm the lead of the ship. And every once in a while, I can dip in and let you know that you didn't do it just right. So sharpen that up.
Yep.
So they trusted you, they believed in you, and that's how you get your team to kind of follow in.
Right.
Nice.
So we fast forward to where you are today. You're a data analytics guru. Is that fair to say?
Well, I play a guy who's a data analytics guru. No, yeah, I mean, at this point, we're coming on year 18 in this industry. It's come a hell of a long way. Cloud is obviously a lot more self introductory than it was back then. People generally get it. And so now really, when I started North Labs in 16 after that hiatus, I wanted to keep it going, but I realized very quickly that migrating cloud systems or getting people into the cloud was a very thankless job. It wasn't a profit center. It was merely a conversation around cost. And anytime you're only having a conversation around cost, people are scrutinizing how much time you're spending,
You were a
cost
commodity.
you're generating. And so I knew that if I switched more into a profit-facing segment of the cloud market, that it would be easier for me to have those value-based conversations. And that's why we very quickly dedicated ourselves to the analytics. And yes, we were doing AI and machine learning way back then. Obviously, it's a lot more popular now. But we understood that if we could use the data a company already had to help follow how a dollar flows through the business, to increase production efficiency, to increase profits, now you are a strategic partner to those companies. And that's where we went.
All right, here's my big question. Give me a good client. Who is somebody that says, boy, I got to have Collin Graves? And tell us how you took them from X to the stratosphere of
Sure.
going to Augusta National.
So I've got a group in Minneapolis. I can't name it because they're aligned with the defense industry. They came to us and they said they make like window films for like UV protection and energy efficiency. They do a lot of HVAC stuff. They're a $7 billion European company.
That's a B. 7B.
Yeah, that's a B. Yep.
Yep.
And they came to us and they said,
Just like
hey,
you, Chris.
Collin, our scrap rate is 24%, meaning 24% of the time the stuff coming off of our lines gets thrown into the scrap heap.
Wow.
And it's wasted money. And that sounds
You tell me 1 out of 4.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm really good at math.
Good job, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
All right. Talk to us.
and so
Look at the
what we
big brains
did,
on Chris.
they had brought in other consulting firms to try and, plan stuff out. It didn't really pan out. I went in with my little team of, my whole mission has been, I wanted to create the Navy SEALs of the cloud, elite operators who just get shit done and don't brag about it and don't kill you with PowerPoints.
Amen.
So we grabbed their data, we unified it into our system. We quickly realized that it wasn't their practice in general. It was what's called extruder head on one of their subassemblies. So it would coil out metal, right? It would extrude metal filament. When that was getting too hot, everything that it touched then, thereafter was scrap because it would burn the product. So we realized that, and that's where a lot of groups would stop. What we did was we implemented a system that would say, all right, when we're 5 degrees short of that threshold, we're going to notify someone. When we're 2 degrees short of that threshold, we're going to slow down the assembly line by 50% until the extruder head cools down, because 50% is better than 0%,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then if it did reach that threshold, we would trigger an auto shutdown of the line to at least avoid all of that finished material from getting burned and thrown into the scrap heap. But that one change, we were in there for about 8 months. It saved them $40 million in operating income in year one.
I got one word.
Badass.
Holy shit. Is that 2 words? So I'm not very
That's
good with
one.
numbers.
That's
Yeah.
one.
Oh my God, dude, that's awesome. What a great story, because when you talk about doing that, you got the precursor. You started to find, because we always talk about things, especially when you start measuring your KPIs, key performance indicators in your business. Many of them are lagging indicators, not
Right.
precursor indicators or future indicators. And in your case, you found the future or the feed forward lag. That's engineering talk. To it, the feed forward.
Thank you for dumbing it down for me, Chris.
I know, I'm
appreciate
trying
that.
really hard. So that's amazing. Wow, what a fun thing to work on and find and really dig into. But it sounds so simple when you look at it in hindsight, right?
I mean, it usually is. It's just most organizations already have all the data they need to run their business more effectively. They just don't know how to leverage it, because the leveraging component of it is very difficult to unify data across systems, to create a common operating picture of that data, and then to actually ask the right questions. That's the biggest thing. Is there's so many tools out there that will show you one little sliver of the universe within Salesforce or HubSpot or wherever. And these companies have been using that as a selling feature for a long time. The problem is it's only showing you the context that exists within that tool, which is a small fragment of your entire value chain. That tool can't possibly understand how your business is actually structured and actually operates. So
Amen.
by doing what we do, we create that, what we call a command center. So now where all that data knows how to speak to each other, and we're able to ask questions that involves data from different domains and paint that picture for them.
So today, how many customers are you working with actively?
We've done over 1,000 projects for a little over 200 customers. Lifetime actively right now, we've got several dozen, including our first military contract. So it only took me 17 years to land my first military
Way
contract.
to go! Way to get back there, man.
Yeah,
I thought
thanks.
that'd be your cherry, right? You're like,
Basically
I'm coming
overnight
back.
success.
God
Yeah.
dang it,
But
the military.
That's exactly what you say, Chris. Overnight
Yeah.
success, 16 years
Yeah.
later.
I do the same thing. Yeah, I've been at 17 years this month, big guy. So for me,
Yeah.
and here I am. Yeah, look at me. Wee. Oh my God, you get your ass kicked, right, brother? I hear you.
Yep.
Yeah, you wish. Sometimes you kind of wish. I'm going to ask you this: if you had to go back to any point in your career, money no object, when did you have the most fun?
I had the most fun flying around with special operations forces in foreign countries. And
I agree with you.
we would, being the Air Force, right, you get access to a little bit more budget than the rest of the branches. I think it's 51 cents of every DoD dollar goes to the Air Force.
You're
And,
Oh,
telling,
right. I didn't know that.
So
you're telling stories inside the. But for many of the people outside, they don't know that one. I have many
Yeah.
friends who are out of the Air Force, but yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I almost joined the Marine Corps, and my
Ooh.
Army father grabbed me by the shoulders and said, "I will disown you. You're joining the Air Force, or you're not joining anything." And I'm glad I did, because we broke down in the Seychelles more than a half dozen times during my
Yeah.
Air
stints. It was
quotes
just
for the listeners. Yeah.
But
it was
Broke down.
when you go
a
back to
week.
so Colin's been at this for 17 years, 16 years, and I've been at it for 17. And I talked to many other business owners, and I will tell everybody the same story. When you look back on it, you go, well, today, no, screw that. You're not as happy as today is. The days you had when it was very simple, when I was turning wrenches, or I was just out there and it was 6 o'clock in the afternoon and I was finishing something. Like, oh shit, we're finishing something at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. But it's a bathroom and I'm wiping this thing down with my guy. That's the most gratification I could have ever gotten. Now I've grown to the point now, again, $6 million doing all this. I don't get to see all of it anymore. But you ask me, money no object. I want to see that finished product, man. I love it when I can see it, feel it, touch it. What my kids always make fun of me when I walk into a place. My kids laugh. They're like, "Hey, Dad, you always have to rub your hands on the walls." So I said, "I just want to make sure they're all finished smooth. That's all I'm looking for." Right? So it's just a beautiful thing. So, Colin, you obviously have been grounded. You got that. You're in what's going on. So how can people find you? How can people find your company? Because we got to get to our famous 4 questions.
I want to hear about the race cars.
Oh shit!
That's
Hang
right.
on. We're gonna have 5 questions. We're going back to race cars. Shit! All right. How can people find you, Colin?
Sure. Yeah, I am without social media other than LinkedIn.
Nice. I
So
like it.
just Collin Graves on LinkedIn, 2 L's, Graves like dead people. Always happy to connect. Our website is northlabs.com. And yeah, that's where we exist on the internet.
Who's your what's the typical size of the, I mean, it sounds like you've worked with some huge companies, but do you work with companies of all sizes?
We do, as long as the use case fits. I mean, we're definitely not the cheapest group on the planet. Our smallest customer right now is about 10 million in revenue. Our largest is 1.3 billion. So we're across the gamut. As long as the use case fits, our whole shtick is we bring pre-designed data solutions to our customers based off of industry or function. So think revenue intelligence, HR analytics, but then also packages for manufacturing, industrial, higher education, biopharma. So we can plug this stuff in and have it running within 45 days as opposed to 12 to 18 months.
You take all that in?
That's impressive.
He is impressive.
I know.
Because he used words I didn't even know.
I just want to do
I just want to rebuke and rebuff.
I just can't believe it's not really in the cloud. But
Hey,
anyway,
it's all cloud.
when are we going to hear about the race cars?
All right, let's go. All right, Colin, one of the things we talked about before we got on the air was that you like race cars.
I do like
And
race cars.
We have an affinity for that here, too. So we want to talk about that for just 2 minutes because we're almost running out of time.
Cool.
Go. What do you race?
Yeah. So grew up racing go-karts, did some of the regional scene for that. I raced 600 class motorcycles while I was in the military, which now makes my stomach do somersaults when I watch it.
Oh, thank God. Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
those days
That's
are
like going
over.
on a 40-foot ladder for me. Dude,
Yeah.
no, I'm done.
Yeah.
24-foot ladder? No, I'm done too.
Done with that. Yeah. And today I race in 2 series. I race Radicals, which are sort of Formula style cars, high downforce, open cockpit, manufactured in Europe. They are by far the most popular racing car as far as I'm concerned these days. Great way for people to get into racing. You go really, really fast and you get that downforce effect that you're usually missing on most race cars. And then I did just get accepted to, I'm now a reserve driver in the Lamborghini series with a group called Dax and Gray down here in Scottsdale. So
All right,
hopefully
brother. Well, when you make it to Road Atlanta, you got to look us up, man. Because
Sure thing.
I was waiting to hear about that because I got a bunch of buddies who are in the SSCA, and Road Atlanta's right here outside of Atlanta. But actually, only 30 minutes from where we live,
Yep,
Alan.
very close.
And I have been there, and I did not realize how cool that industry was.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, I grew up in a family that all we did was work on cars and trucks because they were a trucking family. And I decided to go to the houses because that's all we did was work on houses. But that's here we are. Let's get going. Collin, give us a book you'd recommend to all of our audience.
Show it to you guys.
Show it, talk it, make it happen.
This book is amazing.
Race it in.
It's called Simplify by Robert Koch and Greg Lockwood. I'm reading it for about the 9th time.
Really?
It really talks about position simplifying in businesses. I think that particularly businesses in my industry try to be too many things to too many different buyers. So they end up being nothing to no one. And so my core ethos has always been solve one problem super well and everyone will tell their friends about it. And that's sort of the philosophy I try and follow.
All right.
So the book is really geared towards what you're offering your client base, or is it how you're running your business as well?
It's how you're running your business too. It's how you how do you harness your internal processes to cater to a simpler message than you have today, right? So it's really about how the best businesses in the world have succeeded over time, right? By
Ellen,
identifying.
have you ever seen the movie Beautiful Mind?
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you about my business a little bit. And I need to read this book called Simplify because to scale, I mean, don't get me wrong, guys.
Are you Russell Crowe with the writing on the windows and stuff?
Honestly, if you look at our office here in the headquarters at Norcross, Georgia, yes, I've been in every window and every whiteboard you could ever find, and I scribble the shit out of it. And I've taught my guys to do it. But it's the same thing is that to build a complicated business is hard to scale. To build a simplified business is easy to scale and makes your life easier. And it's so hard to get away from it. And it's so hard to simplify. And that's what Collin's basically telling you. And I think that book will too. You got to understand that because it's hard to do it because you want to solve a lot of problems. And Collin, that's the one thing you got from you, man. You love solving problems. I mean, you have all your life, and we all love to solve every problem.
He fixes things from B-1 bombers to your
data.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And your race cars.
Yep.
Because he doesn't have people working on them. Well, maybe he does now. All right. So, should we ask the second question?
Sure.
Did you ever win a race? No, I'm kidding.
Not in the latest series. I've finished on the podium, but
there you go. Hey, so you got to
P3
go.
is
So you're shooting champagne everywhere. All right, nice.
Yep.
All right, number 2 question. I almost remember it.
We're customer service
Freaks.
Yeah.
And what is a customer service pet peeve of yours when you are the customer?
Ooh. Just had a snafu with Capital One not too long ago, so this is top of mind, and it does have to do with data, I think, but making me repeat the same answer every time you transfer me to the next guy,
Right.
who's trying to help me solve something, and you make me answer the same questions that he did, it makes me absolutely blood boiling mad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
And you can't blame the people. You got to blame the process because they
Exactly.
don't know, man. It just sucks. All right, what's a favorite feature of your house? And where do you live?
So I live in Scottsdale.
That's Arizona.
Scottsdale, Arizona.
We're worldwide.
Yes, Scottsdale, Arizona. So I live squarely in the desert. Favorite feature of my house is our front family room. You know, it's where our 14-month-old hangs out and plays. It's where I keep all my wine. We have our nicest leather furniture that the kid likes to chew on.
So your 14-month-old plays with the wine. Is that what I'm hearing?
100%.
Well,
all day long. No,
maybe in a couple of years.
Huh? No. Well, not the best wine, but as an Italian family, they're very proud to say that Chris started drinking at 6 years old. And
you were helping with the bathtub wine.
I was helping with the bathtub wine. We're like, hey, Sabino, look at him. Oh, he likes it. He likes it. My eyes were coming on just imagine the old cartoons. Your eyes are coming to your head. Yeah. So that's awesome. And a 14-month-old, congratulations, brother, because
Thank you.
Ellen and I are on the other side. Alan's waiting for grandkids. I'm going, hold on. I got 10 more years. I'm good. Hang on.
I don't think it's 10, buddy.
Oh, it better be
Come
10,
on,
bro.
You're in denial.
I am in denial.
All right. Last one.
Colin, last question. You ready?
He's never had one of these.
You had to have a
No, he
DIY
hasn't.
nightmare story.
Everything he does works out.
I don't know. I mean, I want to hear, did he ever blow something up in the house? Did you death, dismemberment? Did you shoot a nail through your hand? Yeah, 100 times.
Yeah, I've got so you're asking what's the worst
What's the
thing?
worst DIY nightmare story? Not a contractor, because I am one. I know we do a bunch of
Something you did.
Okay. Well, I have a scar on my cheek.
Oh,
That's faded with time. As DIY, I was working on a plane, but I was working on it. Supposed to be working on it myself. I was inside of the it's called the overwing fairing of the B-1. So when it sweeps its wings back to fly over the speed of sound, the wings tuck into this fairing. It's got a bunch of hydraulic shit in it. It's messy and nasty and loud. And I needed to depressurize the system. All the systems are pressurized for fluid flow. The plane can fly upside down, all that stuff. I had a very, very experienced crew chief come out and say, he was from, the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. He said, "Hey, brother, I can depressurize that system for you if
Hey,
you
watch
want help,
this.
so you don't have to crawl down and do it yourself." I
he
said,
got a
"Sure.
Southerner to help him.
You know what you're doing. Let's go ahead and do it." Well, there's 2 systems on either side, 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. Well, I needed 1 depressurized. He depressurized 4. Didn't tell me. I was screwing off the hub of a reservoir. There's a sensor inside of the reservoir for fluid quantity, but it had hundreds of PSI of pressure on it. It exploded. So it was like white hot shrapnel. And so I'm working on this, and all of a sudden I hear a very loud bang. My vision goes white. I thought I was dead for a second.
Oh, no.
Covered my eyes, rolled out of the overwing fairing. Thank God for OSHA. I rolled out onto a stand instead of falling 16 feet to the ground. And when I stood up, I climbed down the stand. I turned and looked at Johnny, was his name. And he looked at me bug-eyed, and I went, "What's going on?" And I had literally a piece of the sensor hanging out of my face.
Oh, my God.
So I looked like a cyborg.
Colin.
And that was the last time I ever trusted and didn't verify. So even now today, I always trust but verify. No matter how much faith you have in someone, it doesn't take them that long to verify that they did the shit they said they were going to do.
Collin wins. 3.5 years. Collin wins.
That is incredible. Yeah. He had shrapnel off an airplane sitting in his face, looking like a cyborg.
It's the first time I've ever heard
Colin.
somebody say, "Thank God for OSHA."
And all right,
and
so
but just the fact that it is a classic Southern. Hey, watch this. I got this.
I got this.
Yeah, hold my beer. Hold my beer. I'll
hold my
take
beer.
the pressure
I got
off.
you, bro.
Yeah.
You know what, Alan, Colin, this has been amazing. Go hook up Collin Graves on LinkedIn, guys. If you didn't learn something, man, this has been dynamite. Figuring out some stuff. If you're not a $5 billion company, you're not a $10 million company, it don't matter. Listen to what Collin talked about, how he grew his business to the point he was. And there are some great lessons in there, man. Pick it all up, make it happen. We got to get back. We're going to come back next week. Let's make it happen.
Cheers, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Small Business Safari. Remember, your positive attitude will help you achieve that higher altitude you're looking for in the wild world of small business ownership. And until next time, make it a great day.